How can we look upon all that we've done or failed to do and view it through the lens of our magnificence, especially when we've been trained to feel shame and self-reproach as a result of our perceived failures or flaws? We've all reacted to situations in the past in ways that we wouldn't want to today. I personally have done many things that I wouldn't choose to repeat, yet every recovering or recovered addict looks back with gratitude for the experience that brought him or her to a higher, more loving, sober place. As I've said in other places, true nobility is not about being better than someone else. It's about being better than you used to be. Every single experience in my life, right up to this day, was something I needed to go through in order to get to be here now, writing these words. What proof can I offer for this assertion? It happened. That's all the proof I need. As we look back on our life, we've failed at nothing. All we've done is produce some results. It's imperative that we send love to those who were hurt by us and forgiveness to ourselves to heal our inner agony. We can then view it all as what we needed to experience in order to get to a higher place. One thing I've learned in my 65 years is that virtually every spiritual advance I've made toward a higher, closer alignment with God energy has been preceded by some kind of a fall from grace. Such mistakes, in quote, allow me to write and speak from a more compassionate stance. That is, they always seem to provide me with the energy to propel myself to a higher place. Truly, I bless all of these failures, in quotes, because I know I needed to go there in order to get here. Be gentle and forgiving with yourself. Abandon any and all shame, and refuse to engage in any self-repudiation. Instead, learn from Leo Tolstoy, who said that the most difficult thing, but an essential one, is to love life, to love it even while one suffers, because life is all, life is God, and to love life means to love God. So love life, every moment of it, especially your blunder-filled past. Dr. Abraham Maslow, perhaps the most influential person in my life many years ago, what is necessary to change a person is to change his awareness of himself. Consider how you might want to follow his advice. You can never be mediocre because you are magnificent in every way. So seek ways to change your awareness of yourself so that you're fully aware of your magnificence and can become receptive to inspiration, your ultimate calling. Our life must be open to Spirit's guidance in order for us to feel inspired. When the calendar becomes frenzied, full of unnecessary turbulence because we failed to simplify, we won't be able to hear those long-distance calls from our source, and we'll slip into stress, anguish, and even depression. So whatever it takes to feel joy, we simply must act upon it. Regardless of our current station in life, we have a spiritual contract to make joy our constant companion. So we must learn to make a conscious choice to say no to anything that takes us away from an inspired life. This can be done gently, while clearly showing others that this is how we choose to live. We can start by turning down requests that involve actions that don't correspond with our inner knowing about why we're here. Even at work, we can find ways to keep ourselves on an inspirational agenda. For example, during my years as a college professor, I recall being asked over and over to partake in activities that didn't correspond with my own inspiration. So I devised a simple solution. I took on more teaching assignments, and in exchange, my colleagues attended curriculum meetings, served on research committees, and wrote building improvement reports. I consistently listened to my heart, which always demanded joy. Keep in mind that it's only difficult or impossible to accomplish joy when we engage in resistant vibrational thinking. If we know that we don't have to live a life stuffed with non-joyful activities, then we can choose the way of inspiration. Opting for joy involves giving ourselves time for play instead of scheduling a workaholic nightmare. We deserve to feel joy. It's our spiritual calling. By giving ourselves free time to read, to meditate, to exercise, and walk in nature, we're inviting the guidance that's waiting patiently to come calling with inspirational messages. The bottom line here is that we can simplify life by cutting down on the busy work that keeps us off purpose. We must curtail such activities and listen to Spirit, staying aware of joy and how simple it is to access. on the fateful day of September 11, 2001. What stuck in my mind were the cell phone calls made by the people on the ill-fated planes. Every single call was made to a loved one to connect back in love or to express final words of love. No one called the office or asked their stockbroker for a final appraisal of their financial status, as relationships that weren't love-based didn't enter the thoughts of those who knew they were leaving this physical world. Their top priority was to be certain to close out their lives in love. Tell the kids that I love them. I love you. Give mom and dad my love. Just as love is the priority in the final moments of life, so it must be as we simplify life now. We can go toward a clearer life by examining and purifying our relationships with those we love, with ourselves, and with God. What we're looking for are connections that keep us in an energy of love, which is the highest and fastest energy in the universe.
Able to perform miracles and attract miracles into your life, you have to purify this temple that you live in. And your temple, the temple that you live in, is something that was intended into this universe with perfection. And any energy that comes into it, like yesterday I demonstrated the impact of aspartame and saccharin on the body. In 1,000 out of 1,000 cases in the eye of the eye, Hawkins describes how it doesn't make any difference whether the person knows or doesn't know. Whenever you put that artificial substance into your body, you are weakening your body. And letting go of addictions and letting go of the belief that these are things that have more power over you than you have to let go of them is one of the energy levels below that calibrates below 200. It isn't spirituality in this presentation here today is not about what church you attend and what scriptures you read. It's about how you stay connected to the perfection from which you were intended in the very first place. And I'd like you to really understand that. And when you do, you'll understand that anything that you do that is self-defeating to this temple, as the Sufis used to say, if you don't have a temple in your heart, you'll never find your heart in a temple. And it's about having a temple in your heart. It's about staying connected. And when you do, exercise becomes a regular part of your life. It's a spiritual experience. The foods that you eat become a spiritual experience. The music that you listen to becomes a spiritual experience. The books that you allow into your home, the programs that you allow to be on your television set, the kinds of ideas that you read in newspapers. So it's this force and counterforce thing. Now, as individuals, we understand when the World Trade Center was hit, our first impact, our first inclination was to be kind. What can we do? And you saw people donating blood. We had more blood donated in the first few hours after that than they had to tell people to stop doing it. They had people getting into their fire trucks in Iowa and driving them all the way to Manhattan. They had people going into burning buildings and taking people out. Our whole sense of compassion, because compassion is one of the highest energy levels that you can reach. It calibrates around 470. That when you have compassion in your heart for those who are operating or living at lower levels. And I remember the story that I heard shortly after the World Trade Center disaster, and it was of grandfather talking to his grandson. And the grandson was looking up at his grandpa, and his grandpa said, you know, he said, I feel as if I have two wolves barking inside of me. He said, the first wolf is filled with anger and hatred and bitterness and mostly revenge. And then he said, I have a second wolf barking inside of me who is filled with love and kindness and compassion and even forgiveness. And the grandson looked up at his grandpa and said, which wolf do you think will win, Grandpa? And his grandfather responded, whichever one I feed. And we have to look at what we feed internally in ourselves. when Einstein reminded us that until we come up with an alternative to using force as a way of resolving our disputes, we are doomed as a people to destroy ourselves. We'll destroy ourselves. The weapons that we have put aside in order to resolve our disputes cannot even be used, because if we explode them and the wind changes, it blows back on us the very thing that we are attempting to put onto our enemies.
Your body has limits to how fast it can go and how far it can go. They're expansive and grand. They're much greater than you've ever thought they were. There are boundaries in form, but in thought, in that invisible world that I'm talking about, there are no boundaries except what you choose to think. You can think anything, and anything that you can think is here already in the dimension of thought. It's already here. I'm going to stop relating to the people in my life just my form to their form. I'm going to start getting behind their form, to that divine intelligence that's there. What are they thinking? And how can I have a no-limit relationship with everybody in my life? Instead of relating to the place where there are limits, their bodies, their forms, their performance level, I'm going to relate to what's in back of that. What kind of attitudes do they have? How do they think? I'm going to look at that side of them. That's what Mother Teresa talks about in the streets of Calcutta. She sees God in every one of those starving children and the lepers. She sees the divineness that's there. She doesn't just relate to the form. She relates to who is that human being in back of that form. What is that divineness there? You don't have to be Mother Teresa in the streets of Calcutta catering to the most sorrowful among us. You can do that every place in your life. You can stop just seeing the world in terms of what you see and what you can get a hold of, and start living in that invisible part and back of that, where divineness really resides. That's in all of us. Whoever you are, wherever you go in the world, every single human being you meet, whether it's a tribesman in Afghanistan, whether it's a Sherpa guide in Nepal, whether it's a taxi driver in Tokyo, or a tribesman in New Guinea, or a salesman in Detroit, you share something with that person. What you share is what it's like to be human. We all share that with each other. And you know, and they know, what it's like to hurt inside, what it's like to feel lonely, what it's like to experience pain or to experience exhilaration or happiness. We all, as human beings, and those are all thoughts, those all come from thought, we share thought together with all human beings. And if we remembered that, if we tuned into that part of people, whether we're running a business or a family or whatever, if we started relating to people there, instead of just to their form, and when you see an angry person or you see a happy person, what you're looking at is what created that? And what kind of thoughts do they have? And relate to their thought, relate to the divineness in them, whoever they are. The whole world would be better, and so would your business. It's understanding that no one is any better than anybody else in God's eyes. See, it doesn't matter what you call that universal intelligence. The name doesn't matter. It's just as good a word as any in God's eyes, in that universal intelligence that's permeating all form. All of the rest of it is just trappings. It doesn't really matter. When it gets right down to it, we all share humanity with each other. We're all part of the being called human being, each one of us. In reading the literature of the East, particularly, in preparation for my book, You'll See It When You Believe It, I would find that over and over, I would see references to this thing called the observer. I'd say the observer. And one particular group of people would have written about it, and then it would show up in Buddhism, and it would show up in Hinduism, and it would show up in practice of Zen and in Kundalini. And it just kept showing up, this observer, the observer. And I wasn't quite sure what it was, what it meant. And then I began to realize that it's something I've done all my life, only they were just putting it into words. It's really a technique that I find myself using over and over again. The best way to think of it is, like Shakespeare said, the whole world is a stage, and we are all but actors on that stage. When you start to look at it that way, you begin to see yourself as having a lot of roles to play. And they really are roles. And we're all out there playing these roles. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not authentic at all. I'm not talking about authenticity. Each one of these things are very real, but they are still roles that we're playing. So what you have to do is sort of remind yourself that you're doing that and not take all of this whole stage so seriously and make it so dramatic and so significant and important. It's like lightening you up a little bit. And the observer is like whoever this guardian angel or this invisible person is. You can sort of catch yourself Whenever you find yourself getting out of control or getting mad at the fact that there's a delay at the airport or that the traffic isn't going the way you want it to, that invisible guardian angel, that I, that can be in back of you, can put the skids on that right away. That person can say, I'm watching you. I'm watching your form. You know, Lily Tomlin had a great line. She said, how come when you talk to God, it's called praying? But when God talks to you, it's called schizophrenia, you know. But that God talking to you can be that invisible part of you. Then you start connecting to that. And I find myself, wherever I am in my life, whatever I'm doing, in back of myself, on my shoulder or whatever, and reminding me, how should you react to this? Send love here.
But cultivating the witness is an interesting thing, and what I want to say to you about this is that it's where you begin to step outside and no longer identify yourself with the outer and all that your senses tell you, and begin to reprogram this subconscious mind of yours, which is what does almost all of the activities of your life, the subconscious mind. You know, your conscious mind thinks about things, like when you're learning to drive. It says, you know, put the foot on the brake and then slow it down and turn this and slow it and do this and, you know, put your signal on and endless kinds of things that go through the conscious mind until ultimately the subconscious mind gets all of the suggestions, and then you drive. Your subconscious mind takes you where you want to go. You see a red light, you stop. You don't say, red, right foot, better put it on the brake, better slow. You don't do any of that. Like even you're sitting, all of you sitting right here in this room. You know, you got here, you sit down, nobody told you how to sit, where to put your hands, how to do this, you know, how to listen. You just do all of this subconsciously. Your subconscious mind gets programmed all the time. And the witness is where you want to be able to step outside and look at what it is that you have trained your subconscious mind to do. Now, I wrote a whole book about this called Excuses Be Gone, about retraining this habitual mind of yours that does nothing but continuously have you redo the same things over and over and over again, where you want to learn to just walk a different way in your life and reach. And the way that you do this is by starting to witness what it is that you're doing. And one of the suggestions I give to everyone at my talks is this, to recognize that the last 5 minutes of your day before you go to sleep at night are 5 of the most important minutes that you live all day long. Because this is the time when you are preparing your subconscious mind, which is most comfortable with your unconscious mind. Your subconscious mind learns the most when it is in its unconscious state, in your sleep state. So as you're about to go into sleep and your mind is busy doing all of the kinds of things that it does, you are really preparing the universe to offer you up experiences that match up to whatever you're placing into your subconscious mind. And this is a hard concept for people to get, but this is how the world works. This is how the universe works. And I suggest to you that you don't spend the last 5 minutes of your day reviewing all of the things that you don't like, and all of the things that you don't want, and all of the people that upset you, and all of the hurts that you have, and all of the reasons that things are not going well, and all of your illnesses, and all of the things that you can't do, and how sorry you feel for yourself, and all of it. You don't want to do that because you're about to marinate for the next 8 hours in your unconscious mind, which is most comfortable with your subconscious mind. And then when you awaken, you see your subconscious mind cannot make a distinction between what you're thinking about and what you're experiencing in your day and in your life. It just says, if you're thinking it, that must be what you want. And I'll just offer you up experiences that match up to what you're thinking. So you want to be really careful as you go off to sleep at night to make sure that you are placing into your subconscious mind, which is about to enter its unconscious state, only that which you want to materialize and manifest tomorrow morning when you awaken and throughout the entire day. And so many people make the mistake of using the last 5 minutes before they enter into this 8-hour marinating period by going over the things that they don't like, that they don't want, that shouldn't have happened, that really upset them, and so on. You want to make the shift. This is from the book of Job. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls upon men while slumbering in their beds, then he opens the ears of men and seals their instruction. Then he opens the ears of men and seals their instruction while they are slumbering in their beds. Job 33, verses 15 and 16. So while you're sleeping, you're getting instructions. But first you've got to place it in your mind and then experience it and witness it. And as you go to sleep at night, you witness everything working out perfectly. I am healthy. I'm going to be walking. I'm going to be in a divine relationship. I'm going to be, attracting the right prosperity. I'm going to have divine relationships with everyone I encounter. I'm going to have the most marvelous day tomorrow. I'm going to help 25 people. Whatever it is, you just place into your imagination, feel what that feels like, and then go off to sleep and receive your instructions. Cultivate the witness.